Good morning and happy Friday. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Friday edition of The Riley King Show. Today is Friday, January 30th, 2026. Here's what's ahead on today's program. Confusion following a court ruling on New Hampshire vehicle inspections. Concord students walk out to protest ICE. The New Hampshire Senate advancing a statewide school choice bill. And new movement on legislation involving homemade food sales. We'll also cover efforts to clarify school event recording rules, debate over proposed police pay raise in Hooksett, an explosion at a Pennsylvania metal plant that injured 4 people, and Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez voicing support for anti-ICE protests while keeping her office open. Plus, a bystander tackling a suspect after TSA checkpoint breach in Atlanta. Trump's attend a documentary premiere at the Kennedy Center. President Trump declaring a national emergency over Cuba. Growing criticism and impeachment threats facing DHS Secretary and a $10 billion lawsuit filed by President Trump against the IRS over alleged tax return leaks. Let's get started. First up, we're gonna take a look at your traffic and weather real quick in New Hampshire. Traffic appears generally light to moderate across the region, shown with most highways moving smoothly. Major routes around Manchester, Nashua, and Concord are mostly clear, though there are a few small pockets of slower movement near highways and interchanges and urban centers. The coastal corridor toward Portsmouth and Newburyport is also flowing well with no major congestion visible. Drivers may experience minor slowdowns near city entrances and junctions, but there are no significant delays or standstill traffic indicated at this time. Overall, travel conditions look favorable for most routes. And a look at your weather. Your weather today, partly cloudy skies, high at 12, winds west-northwest at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Tonight, bitterly cold, a clear sky, low -7, winds northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And tomorrow, plentiful sunshine, cold, high 19, winds northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. That's a look at traffic and weather. Now let's get started with the news. Court ruling sparks confusion over New Hampshire vehicle inspections. New Hampshire drivers are rushing to inspection stations after a judge temporarily halted a law that would have ended the state's vehicle inspection program. Officials confirm inspection stickers are still required while the case moves through federal court. The ruling stems from a lawsuit arguing that eliminating inspections could violate the Clean Air Act. The state has asked the Environmental Protection Agency for approval to change the program, but is still awaiting a response. Lawmakers say they plan to take action soon to clarify the law, while local police and repair shops report a surge in last-minute inspection appointments. Concord students stage walkout to protest ICE. Several students at Concord High School walked out of class Thursday and marched to the State House to protest recent actions by immigration and custom enforcement. Demonstrations carried Demonstrators carried signs and chanted slogans urging lawmakers to address their concerns. Students said the walkout was a way to stand up for their beliefs, even if it meant missing school. The demonstration was one of several student-led protests held across New Hampshire and around the country this week opposing ICE policies. New Hampshire Senate advances a statewide school choice bill. New Hampshire Senate Republicans on Thursday passed a bill that would allow students to enroll in any public school statewide, aiming to end what they call education based on zip codes. Democrats warned the proposal could disrupt school districts and increase property taxes, saying the change would be difficult to implement quickly. Lawmakers also raised questions about potential impacts on high school athletics and student recruitment. Governor Kelly Ayotte has not taken a public motion, but is monitoring the legislation. Two open enrollment bills are now moving forward, with one potentially heading to the governor's desk next week if approved by the House. Senate advances a bill on homemade food sales. A debate over homemade food sales in Manchester is now moving through the Senate State House. The New Hampshire Senate on Thursday voted along party lines to advance a bill that would bar cities and towns from requiring licensees to produce and sell certain homestead foods. The proposal follows a cease and desist order issued to a Manchester resident over distributing canned goods. Supporters say the measure would create consistent rules statewide, while opponents argued it would expand state authority over local governments. The bill now heads to the New Hampshire House for consideration. Lawmakers move to clarify school event recording rules. New Hampshire lawmakers are advancing to fix a new state law that led some school districts to stop recording and streaming sports and other public events. Confusion over the Parental Bill of Rights passed last year prompted districts to halt video coverage out of concern it required parental consent. The state Senate on Thursday approved an amendment clarifying that events open to the public at schools may be recorded without permission. The change is being fast-tracked through the legislature, and if signed by the governor, would restore video coverage of public school activities statewide. Debate grows over proposed Hooksett police pay raises. A proposed pay raise for police officers in Hooksett, New Hampshire is sparking debate between town officials and local patrol union. Town Councilor David Smith has criticized the increases in excessive and unfair to taxpayers, saying raises should stay closer to the rate of inflation. Police leaders and union representatives argued officers are underpaid compared to neighboring communities, warning that low wages are contributing to staffing shortages and burnout within the department. Explosion at Pennsylvania metal plant injures 4. An explosion at a metal fabrication plant in Washington County, Pennsylvania, injured 4 people Thursday night. Authorities say the blast occurred during a chemical transfer process at the facility. Emergency crews responded to the scene, and the injured workers were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The cause of the explosion remains under investigation. Ocasio-Cortez backs anti-ICE protests office to remain open. New York Congresswoman Alexander Ocasio-Cortez is voicing support for nationwide anti-ICE protest planned for Friday, calling attention to concern over immigration enforcement policies. Despite her support for the demonstration, Ocasio-Cortez said her congressional office will remain open and continue normal operations during the planned events. Bystander tackles a suspect after TSA checkpoint breach at Atlanta airport. Surveillance video showed a bystander tackling a suspect who allegedly forced his way through a TSA security checkpoint at Atlanta's airport after knocking down a security officer. Authorities say the incident was quickly contained and the suspect was taken into custody. No serious injuries were reported and the airport operations were not significantly disrupted. Trump attended a documentary premiere at Kennedy Center. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump attended the premiere of the documentary Melania at the Kennedy Center. The film is scheduled for a global theater release today. Organizers say the documentary highlights Melania Trump's life and public role, drawing attention from supporters and media at the Washington event. Trump declares a national emergency over Cuba. President Donald Trump has declared a national-related emergency to Cuba, accusing the country's communist government of aligning with hostile foreign powers. As part of the move, the administration announced new tariffs targeting oil suppliers to the island nation. Officials say the action is intended to increase economic pressure, while critics question the potential impact on international trade and regional relations. Growing calls for Nome's removal after deadly Minnesota shootings. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem faces mounting criticism and impeachment threats from Democrats after federal agents fatally shot 2 people during immigration crackdowns in Minnesota. Trump files $10 billion lawsuit against IRS over alleged tax return leaks. President Donald Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS, accusing the agency of leaking his tax returns and other confidential information involving him, his family, and the Trump Organization to media outlets. The suit claims the disclosures were illegally and harmed millions by violating federal privacy laws. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of The Riley King Show. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Bye now.